Morning everyone, welcome to this webinar this morning on harnessing repairs, maintenance and compliance with myself, Gary Dixon. I'm Digital and Design Manager at SFHA, and joining us today is Lee Burke from Plantific. In June 2021, I launched a report on digital maturity in the housing sector, and one of the key findings that we found across the sector was that 47% of organisations are collecting a lot of data, but reflecting that with the fact that only 29% of them are actually using this data to make better data-driven decisions. So Lee's joined us today to focus on an area of housing, that kind of repairs, maintenance and compliance aspect, and to talk about how we can potentially make more of that data that will, in the end, hopefully improve tenant satisfaction. Just a little bit of housekeeping from myself today. We've got Q&A function, and we'll hopefully throughout, if you've got any questions or thoughts that come up, if you could pop them in the chat or the Q&A, I'll get through them at the end with Lee. And if there's any other kind of thoughts on what's been discussed today, please do feel free to share them with us throughout. I'll hand you over to Lee shortly, and we'll also be doing one or two polls throughout the session, so keep your eyes peeled for when those polls come up on the screen. We'll share the presentation afterwards, and just to let you know that the session will be recorded, so you will be able to watch it afterwards again. And yeah, over to you, Lee.
Hi, good morning. Thanks, Gary. Appreciate that short introduction. So thank you very much for joining us today, guys. As Gary just said, I'm going to be running through a short presentation, which gives you an idea of how we can harness the power of technology and data within the housing sector. I'll tell you a little bit about Plantific, so it gives you an understanding of who we are and how we operate within the sector, and the kind of level of data and analytics that we can produce and we can relay back to you guys. So please allow me to share my screen, and I'll start running through it. As Gary said, if you've got any questions, add them in to the question set, and we'll get to them as and when we can. When I am presenting, I can't see your screen, so I can't see the questions flashing up, but Gary will mediate that. All right. So how can housing providers use the power of data to improve service and delivery? So in terms of this presentation, I'm just going to introduce, as I say, Plantific as it says, and then I'll jump into the format of this webinar content and then run you through how we perceive using the data that's gathered from our cohort of executives and from our roundtable events and webinars to give you a greater understanding of where we feel the importance of data and technology should be applied within the housing sector. So to start with, a little bit about myself and about Plantific. My name's Lee Burke. I'm one of the directors here at Plantific. I've been here just over 12 months. Prior to that, I've been working in heavily regulated industries, particularly within the housing sector, and that's all around compliance and that kind of area. So I'm very familiar with the likes of the Building Safety Bill, the Hackett Report, Regulator of Social Housing White Papers, which are prevalent both north and south of the border. The company itself, we were founded in 2013. We were originally a B2C business, very quickly adapted our process and became a B2B business. And we're very much client-centric. So a lot of our information and our technology has been built around nuances and problems within the sector, leaning on popular brands and popular associations, the likes of L&Q, Peabody and NHG are one of our three key founding members. We also have a number of smaller entities, some that have worked within the charitable sector and some that work with vulnerable tenants as well. So it's quite a mixed bag, and that includes anybody from property portfolios of a couple of 100 properties, part of the G320, all the way up to the G15, including, as I say, L&Q with over 100,000 units. So it's a mixed bag, and as a result, we get mixed results coming back in terms of pain points, but it's all to do with data and technology. So our vision is we believe that great technology can empower people, transform businesses, lives, and more importantly, local communities. Our mission around this is to improve the quality of life by making proper work property work better for everyone, so it creates happy residents, relaxed employees, and a better service for all. So as Gary mentioned there, it's ultimately all leading to this data collection, which can harness the power of the information you have, but ultimately lead to tenant or resident satisfaction for you guys to keep your tenants happy in the properties that they're in. Our business itself, I don't know if you're aware of it. Some people may be aware of us, some people may not. But to give you an idea, as I say, we've been going since 2013. We've just gone through our Series C round of funding, raised some capital to allow us to expand geographically, but also help with our product development. In terms of our business as well, we've got just over 400,000 units under management on our property, so you can see the kind of scale we're at. As well as that data and that harness of technology, we also have another arm of the business, which is engaging with trade contractors. And this goes into our ESG and our social values, and I'll touch a little bit more on that as it is. But essentially, we can bring a supply chain of around 18,000 trade contractors, all the way from one-man bands to SMEs, all the way up to tier ones as well, including the likes of Waits and a couple of others that are on there as well. As such, we're operating around 25,000 monthly repairs through the platform, and we're also doing around 8,000 compliance jobs every month through the platform as well. Our team, I'm not dwelling on it too much, but we've scaled significantly. We've got about 215 people across 6 countries worldwide. We've got offices here in the UK, both in Liverpool and London. We've got an office in Germany, and we've just opened up in New York, which is very exciting. The majority of our team are back-end product developers. So a lot of this is client-centric. We go out and speak to our clients and also to our cohorts, and we understand what needs doing, and then we develop the solution on the back end to, again, allow them to harness that technology and that data. In terms of the webinar contents, there's 9 key areas we're going to run through. I'll start with Housing to 2040 strategy, which is prevalent north of the border with you guys. I'll then look at the road to quality service delivery, touch on our Property Labs research, again, which is where we're very client-centric. I'll also look at how effective systems can empower teams, which can give you a whole different aspects on operational gains and et cetera. I'll look at how technology can help overall. Benchmarking, which is something that is quite a hot topic within the industry at the moment. Safety, again, another prevalent area given the Hackett report and the Building Safety Bill. I'll also touch on the economic benefit, which again leads into our social values and our ESG and how that can link to you guys and harnessing that data. And then I'll finish with a summary and then a Q&A at the back end. As Gary rightly said, there's a couple of polls in there just to keep you guys on your toes, just make sure I'm not boring you guys too much. So do keep up with the content, and we'll ask you a couple of very, very simple questions, just again to gather a little bit more data for ourselves as well. So starting off, Housing to 2040. So you guys will be aware more than we are that investment in affordable quality housing is a fundamental part of the Housing to 2040 strategy. Industry reports across the UK, both north and south of the border, have highlighted the importance of understanding the granular details behind repairs, maintenance and compliance, the processes to improve living conditions. And we've seen in a couple of BBC documentaries that have highlighted such. Goes again about resident satisfaction and deliver truly quality homes for all of your residents and your tenants. As part of this session, we'll discuss how technology and data is enabling housing providers like yourselves to capture these details, which improve safety and compliance, and more importantly, help local communities thrive. Now, while there's a consensus that safe, good quality and affordable home should be the standard for residents everywhere, the reality is, unfortunately, that it isn't, and there's many factors which can negatively impact this ambition. Pressures to build new homes. So obviously we know we're way behind what the promise was by a number of housing providers for new builds, and obviously there's third-party impacts on that as well. But again, the pressures against that and keeping up with the housing demand is very, very difficult. Net zero targets, sustainability growth, decarbonisation, all that fits into it, and then retrofits for works that are required to keep the quality and standard of existing properties, let alone new builds as well. Now, imagine if you had all these challenges and more, which you guys will have on an individual and on a generic basis as well. But you now have this over 100 properties, 1,000 properties, 10,000, 100,000 properties. It can feel impossible to keep up with the quality of service of high and cost-effective management without the impact that good quality data and insights can help to manage these processes. So you guys will know it more than me, but the Housing to 2040 roadmap is over 4 kind of key parts, and that splits into more homes at the heart of great places, affordability and choice, affordable warmth and zero emissions, leads back to the decarbonisation that we were talking about, and the improvement of quality of all homes. So it can be quite impactful on what you're doing, and the only way to get all these 4 parts and more completed is to have that sustainability, that decarbonisation area, but more importantly, the technology and the data that can back it up. And it can give you that predictive analytics, all that extractable data that you can use. Now, I appreciate you can pull data in from different areas and it's a proliferation of different systems. What we wanted to do, and the voice that's been heard from the general public and from the housing sector, is that it wants to go away from using multiple different platforms and sourcing different data. It needs almost one version of the truth, or a singular platform that can allow this data to be construed in a format that is readable without being kind of intuitive towards that data, and make sure it can give you the right insight to make these key decisions as you move forward. So the road to quality service delivery, as we see it, is built on 4 key common barriers preventing that effective service delivery. So what we've seen is the use of technology and data can improve services such as repairs and maintenance and compliance, but it's nothing new to the housing sector. As I just mentioned there's many different platforms that can either stand alone or communicate through various APIs or integrations, and you can deliver data from different segments. The important part that's really missing, the key that's missing, is how we pull that data together and make sense of it as well. And the 4 key blockers that we're coming across, or the 4 key barriers, is all around multiple systems holding different information. Legacy systems and spreadsheets. You'll be amazed at the amount of clients that we've got on board that have really been dragged into the 21st century, because previously they were operating multiple spreadsheets, whether that's for gas compliance or whether that's for responsive repairs or planned maintenance, whatever it may be. And it makes a real difference being able to use these new modern technology and the data systems, and it's added exponential growth to them in terms of efficiency gains and cost savings as well. The third part is all about outdated processes and poor visibility. And then the 4th point there is lack of engagement and communication between key stakeholders. So it can be, depending on the various size of your organization and your structure, what we have seen is various divides. So we've got people that are talking to us about the new legislation for shared ownership and whether they can be tracked through our processes around the £200 to £750 barrier, whichever they're going to settle on, and whether that can be compounded over 1, 3, 5, 10 years as well. So it's about harnessing that data. So we've got one area of a business talking about that. We've got another area of the business that's talking about defects, another area that's talking about disrepair claims, another that's talking about responsive repairs and planned maintenance, and another area about compliance. And it's about how we pull all that together into one singular data system to give everybody, every key stakeholder, the same level of intuitive data across the board. And it's having that transparency and that openness of that data as well that allows you to really back up what you're saying. How have we come to that? So it's all backed by research. Everything we've done is through what we deem as a property lab. And as I mentioned earlier, we're very, very client-centric. So everything we do, we use a cohort of executives that come to us, feed back any issues, and our product is then built around those pain points. So our innovation program, Property Labs, helps us to acquire this insight. It was established with the goal of using qualitative data across business functions and levels to get a holistic overview of organizational processes. And then, as I say, on the back end, build a solution around this research. So we've done a number of different ones previously, all the way from over 40 senior members in social housing and in housing providers, that could be both public and private sector, including local authorities. And we've done engagements on voids, on compliance, on residents engagement, and we've started to put the pieces together to enable you to do everything through one platform. And again, get that real analytical data on the back end, which is critical to you making executive short, medium, and long-term decisions. And you can see a number of cohorts on there, but again, both north and south of the border. And what would be really great is to get you guys and your insight, because I've talked a little bit there about housing to 2040, but in reality, shy of reading all the legislation or all the recommendation that's come out, we need people like yourselves that are closer to it, that can help guide us about how you want to get that data and that technology working for you guys. And again, if anybody wants any information about the Property Labs or how to join, it's free of charge. I'm more than happy to share that with you guys afterwards. All right, the first quick poll question. Let's make sure you've all been listening. So Molly, yeah, there we go. So Molly's launched it. It's a very simple yes or no. The issues that I've just spoken about then, do these issues resonate with you guys? Please click yes or no, and we can take it forward from there to make sure that we're on the right lines to start with. All right, just give it a minute.
Yeah, I think overall there, Lee, we're looking at quite a resounding yes. So really interesting to see what else you've got to say, and also how we can, maybe I can tease out one or two additional things from the Joint Security Report and how that might link to this too. Thanks everyone for sharing those answers in the poll.
Thanks, Gary. It's good to see. It's good to see that we're in the right place and we're talking about the right stuff. And again, it resonates with people across the UK, not just north or south of the border, including Northern Ireland. We've got clients over there, and they're telling us exactly the same thing. So it's good to know that we're on the right path. For those that said no, sounds like you're doing a fantastic job. Keep everything going. But if there are any pain points, please come to me, and we can see what we can do for technology and data with you guys as well. All right. So moving on, how can effective systems empower your teams? And again, these three key areas that we've highlighted here. So to combat the issues that we've just discussed about repairs and maintenance teams and whatnot, these guys need to work very, very closely with their internal technology teams to ensure that the right information is captured and stored in a structured and accessible format. So this is exactly what I've been talking about. And we're doing a lot of work with people that deem themselves to be disruptors or ICT transformation managers, and we're getting the term digital transformation bounded around more and more. So what we're trying to do, as well as working with the repairs and maintenance teams, the compliance teams, the CFO, the CEO, we're also very heavily reliant on internal technology teams, the ICT directors, the IT managers, to make sure that this data is manageable and structured. So as I mentioned again, and I will keep mentioning it, is that it's nothing new. You can get data from a proliferation of systems. The key thing here is how that we can interact with your existing systems or give you the power to use this as a standalone solution to give you the right information that is actionable. And that's what's key here, because if you've got multiple levels of data all over the show, it's almost impossible to pull that together to then present it to stakeholders or to your residents or to your board directors to give you a full intuitive understanding of where you are on your compliance rating, where you are against the white papers of the regulator of social housing, where you are against the building safety bill, or more importantly, where you are just against your property stock and your asset management. So the three key areas here is all around accurate, instant and centralized information. And I mentioned instant there because everything we do is all about real time. And what that equates to then is about a proactive approach to compliance, to repairs, to maintenance, to actions. We're trying to take this away from a reactive stance and give you that real-time data so that you can act upon it in a proactive manner while your operatives are on site. So again, negating need for second-time visits. And all our work is all about getting 90th percentile for customer satisfaction, for first-time fix rates, that kind of stuff as well. And again, I can tell you a little bit more about how our product does that at another time. What I want to do is focus on the data particular itself. So again, excuse me. Again, it's about descriptive, excuse me, remote. 1 second. Sorry. It's about descriptive remote insights into repairs, maintenance, and compliance. And lastly, It's about improved coordination and quicker turnaround times. I do apologize. I've swallowed a bug by the sounds of it. So again, as I mentioned, it's about quicker coordination and quicker turnaround times. It's all about how data can empower that quicker turnaround, that responsive, that effectiveness that you guys need in the field, and to harness that data that comes back in as well. And part of that is benchmarking, and that's what we'll look at later. So how can technology really pull together to help you move forward? And in this latter part of the presentation, we're focusing on 3 key areas. The first would be benchmarking, the second is safety, and the third, as I mentioned, is all around the ESG and social value. So to start with, we're looking at benchmarking in particular, and there's a number of different areas that fall within benchmarking. And it can become much, much simpler and much more centralized with a centralized, simple technology system that has structured data collection and in turn reporting on the back end. So as well as gathering that data at the front end, it's all about how you collect it, but more so how you can present that and extract it in a reporting capability. And again, all the housing providers are telling us from the webinars and the links that we're doing is that it's all well and good collecting that data, but how do we extract it and how do we use it in a manner that can allow us to benchmark? Now, when we're talking about benchmarking, there's a couple of areas here, and it's all about conducting comparative analysis of KPIs, time spent, cost of repairs, volume of works, benchmarking against your current property portfolio, benchmarking against contractors, DLO, ALMO, whatever it is you're using, and how can housing providers use more real-time intuitive data to benchmark into their advantage. And there's a couple of simple ways in which we've identified that. And the first one is around appliance replacement schemes. So when we talk about planned programs of work, so in recent years, more and more organizations have increased investment in planned maintenance schemes, and no doubt you guys have as well. And they've realized the importance of taking a proactive approach to maintenance rather than a reactive one. And what we've seen there is the increased standards of properties as well moving forward, which is fantastic for everybody involved. But that can only happen with data collection, and data captured in real time on site from the works can be used as benchmark to analyze performance. So a good example is being able to identify the current number of homes which are energy inefficient and where certain types of appliances are breaking down more often than others. We can use predictive analytics in the background to help you extract that data to look at not only your property performance, but your asset performance. And that allows clients to collect data such as age, appliance condition, previous work history, and they're able to make more informed decisions from planned maintenance programs. So that harnessing of data really allows you to drive front-end efficiencies and make sure your property and portfolio stock is up to date. The second part of this is all about contractor performance. And we speak to several organizations who are accustomed to using an established pool of contractors for their works. They may have a DLO, an ALMO, or a number of appointed contractors, but equally, they do not have a great deal of visibility into contractor performance, and they're not certain whether they're being overcharged. They could be on schedule of rates plus or minus 20%. They're not sure on where they are in terms of delays on jobs or whether they have a valid reason for said delay. And then how quote variations are established, and what tenant feedback on what the service was like. But technology such as ourselves can now afford housing providers complete visibility into a work order from all the way from when it's raised, whether that's raised by you guys as a housing provider or as a property manager, or even from the resident's perspective, and all the way to it being assigned and resolved, including completion reports and then analytical data on the performance of the property and the contractor that actually did the work. So it's allowing to establish a central system for work order management, and it's syncing this automatically with an analytics platform, which can help create an environment rich with contractor performance data, which is critical to an understanding of where you're going. And now some people have fantastic relationships with contractors, and some people unfortunately don't. And either way, we can help to assist you. And I mentioned about those trade contractors that are on there. So we're helping people with either an overflow because they've come out of COVID and the pandemic with a backlog, or they've got a load of work in progress, and simply their contractors or the DLO just cannot keep up with the requirements of work. So we can help from an overflow perspective, and we can give you that benchmarking data to say, hey, this is how your contractors are currently performing, this is how your DLO is performing, and this is how our marketplace are performing. So it gives you that intuitive data to make informed decision-making processes moving forward with exactly what you need to do. And again, giving that service optimization. And again, that can clear with works order quoting all the way through to WIP time, service delivery, and again, the analytics of the performance on the back, including financial performance as well, which is critical for your board stakeholders. Moving on to safety. So if we look at safety, again, these words get bounded around all over the back of the Hackett report and the building safety bill, and it's all around this single source of truth and this golden thread. So safety and compliance is an area where housing providers have seen vast improvement with the use of technology, and people are kind of gathering more and more intel to help with this. And we've seen issues from the Waking Watch all the way through to the Hackett report around what we should do around, particularly around fire safety and electrical safety. And again, we've built intuitive workflows that can help you harness that data at the front end from a proactive approach, which can then establish a central system for work order management, and again, leading into safety, but more importantly, the golden thread of information. And again, as I say, it's very much in focus, and providers are favoring a proactive approach, keeping a cloud-based real-time audit trail of compliance and moving away from reactive spreadsheets and paper-based processes. And again, our intuitive links can help you with the auditing on the back end, as well as the front end workflow, including angry states, angry tolerances, to making sure that you're getting it right first time. So there's a huge advancement in technology which can really help move this forward. And this comes more to fruition when we're talking around two different areas. And again, if we look at recent mergers that are happening, so we've seen mergers all over the show. One of our clients has gone through a recent merger. You've got Catalyst, which is a LinkedIn for a merger that's going through. Abri have gone through one recently. It's happening everywhere. And this is a proliferation of systems, and safety comes into it when you're bringing everything together for that one golden thread of information. So if we look at this, it's all about a standardized approach and adapting to the new regulations. And again, I know there's one that's quite prevalent in Scotland around the interlinked fire alarms. But if we look at what we're doing around standardization of work, ensuring best practice, one of the goals of kind of asset and compliance teams from which we've spoken to was to standardize the approach to gas servicing in particular across all properties and landlords. And this links back to one of our clients that went through a merger. So they didn't have that visibility of everything using different systems. And the difficult part was, prior to the merger, those landlords all had different processes and different places to manage gas servicing, whether that was paper-based spreadsheets or different software systems, from a front-end tracker all the way through to the housing management system. So to start, each property across the landlord's portfolio was fitted with a specific NFC tag, and it was registered out on a centralized database, so one version of the truth. And that meant that teams had visibility on gas work that's completed, but they also had previous acknowledgements and information about jobs that have been done before. So a full work history flow. So that engineer on site can know exactly what's happened there previously before they make the move to do what they're doing. After the tags have been installed, visitor engineers again could see that full workflow, and they could follow an intuitive, very simple app that guides them through the correct servicing, and again pulls that data in one format. So it doesn't matter whether it's your DLO that's using it, your appointed contractor, or whether it's been subcontracted. Everybody is using the same format with the same data input, with the same links to the gas safe register, the same blocks on standardization for angry tolerances if readings aren't right, and then conversely getting that data in a meaningful manner that can then be adapted, and again using the tagging and competency verification, the mandatory fields, the angry states. They're getting a structured collection of data, which then helps with further long and short-term strategies moving forward for what they want to do on gas compliance, electrical compliance, repairs and maintenance, responsive and planned works as well. If we look at the new regulation, again, the latest fire safety research within Scotland's domestic dwellings reveals that existing technologies can harness and increase fire safety for all individuals living in the home. And this is more prevalent to the new one that's coming in early next year around interlinked fire alarms. And this is about using a smart alarm system within either a smoke or a CO2 alarm, and then tethering these devices either to each other or to smart devices on your home network, such as phones or lights. And all this can be pulled together to help raise alerts of any risk through your entire network, rather than just alarming a specific room, or again, feeding it into different data sets. It's all about pulling this together and having a cost-effective approach to it, and making sure that we can get everything that's done to an adaptable place, and the ability to process property requirements holistically. On the back of this, if we now look at the economic benefit, and again, this splits into a number of different areas, but essentially this is all around having live and historical data to be captured on spend, cash flow, performance, and used to optimize processes and costs. And when we talk about economic benefit, this ties into our social value and our ESG, which is all about economic, social, and governance as well. And it's all about a verified impact on operations and communities, understanding your affordable housing supply, and efficiency gains on the processes in the back end. And again, this leads all back to tenant satisfaction. And a couple of points that can highlight this is all around two key areas. One is increased energy performance. And as you guys all know very well, this is all about understanding what's going to happen to it, a boost to this kind of local economy and everything, but more in so around understanding that energy performance. So the decarbonisation that we've talked about, and having an energy efficiency rating of a minimum of C by 2040. And the way that we can help with energy performance is around utilising local suppliers to obviously cut down on your CO2 and your carbon footprint, enabling an energy efficiency by the data that can be captured in real time and the reports that can be transpired on the back of it, and transparency of work conducted. So this really lends on how we can kind of look at what you're doing, and we can extract that in data that is structured to allow you to look at your own portfolio and reduce that carbon footprint that everybody's so hot on at the moment. The second part is about strengthening communities with technology. So how can we do that? So many housing providers want to speak they want to bring value back into their communities, because what we've actually found is that a lot of contractors want to be sourced locally, and that engagement that we have with the 18,000 trade contractors, the majority of these people not only live within communities for which you guys serve, but a lot of these people actually live within your actual housing providers themselves. So these people are actually part and parcel of your community. So allowing you to strengthen that community engagement by using technology by ours, by pushing jobs to them and enabling them to bid on it, not only drives down the cost efficiencies for you guys, but increases first time fix rates, it increases the time frame to which you're allocating work sources, and it increases the number of actual hours in which you can fit jobs in. So it's opening up those real time frames to allow your local trade contractors to get involved, and it's accessing information and procuring reliable resources, visibility of job allocation, and then more importantly, to measure the sustainability and that social impact that's really coming on about it. So technology can really enable those social organizations to connect with local tradespeople for jobs that they may not usually see because they're tied into a 5+5 contract. And this gives housing providers direct intelligence into the number of jobs that are being allocated to their local economies, and the impact that that can have by recycling that money back into it. But also what it's shown is a recent report up in Scotland has shown that investment into energy efficiency for Scottish homes could create thousands of jobs and boost GDP by at least 8 billion. And then for every £1 invested within this local community could deliver up to £5 back. And it'll also prepare homes for low carbon heating systems like heat networks and heat pumps. So not only are you increasing performance and energies, but you're also strengthening the bond in your community you're increasing the actual housing capacity that you've got, and you're reducing costs and timeframes that are affiliated to it. So huge lenience on ESGs. And that brings us to our final poll question, which is all around ESG. And this is more interactive to say, have you ever really heard of it? So does ESG really factor into your housing structures? Because we've sort of spoken to a number of housing providers, particularly within the G15, and they're actually writing it into their housing structure and their strategy over the next 5 years. So it'll be interesting to see if this resonates with you. And is it one of your focuses? Is it something that's come across? You've heard of it, but it's not real consideration, or it's not even a focus for you guys. So please get voting so we can again understand if we're on the right sector here as well. Give it a couple of minutes, Gary, if we can, and then shut the poll down, see where we are.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, we got some votes coming through.
Yep, so we're looking at about 50% forms some part of, oh, it's just shifted, sorry. 45% forms some part of it, 18% one of our main focuses, 9% heard about it, but not a consideration, and 27% saying not really a focus.
Wow, okay. It's a good split. It's a good split there. So the majority, as you say, is it forms some part of it, but it isn't the main focus, which is good. And again, I'd be happy to share more information about that, particularly about what other housing providers are doing and how they're writing it into their strategy to help form better bonds within their local communities. So thank you for that. It's really good feedback, and it helps us to go back to see exactly where we are with our strategies as well. So appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, so in closing, and again, I appreciate I've gone for a while on this. So in closing, just in summary, as you can see, so housing providers can use technology in a number of ways to positively reinforce housing strategies and can help us achieve our future goals. So the 3 key areas that we've looked at is all around stronger insights into how technology can improve the services we deliver. And again, a solution such as ours can help you with that front end proactive response and the analytical data that can be pulled, whether that's property performance, contractor performance, financial performance, whatever it may be, the analytics are embedded to allow you to do that. The second part is all around process optimization, opportunities within asset management. And then the third and final piece is ways to seamlessly combine human and technological abilities in organizations of all sizes. So as I touched on at the very start of this, what we wanted to do was make this very intuitive, but also inclusive. What we didn't want to do is build a presentation today or a platform that only resonates with a certain sector. And as I said, we've got people that are on our books that are doing charitable acts. They deal with vulnerable tenants and people with disabilities, all the way from a housing stock of 50, 60, 70 properties, all the way up to 100,000. And the technology needs to work seamlessly with your human interaction to make sure that it's working properly for everybody involved. All right, that's it. Thank you very much for listening. I do appreciate it. I'll stop sharing my screen and we can take it to any questions if there are any.
Thanks for that, Lee. That was really interesting. And I mean, I think just from my point of view, in terms of what I've been seeing across the sector, it is a really interesting time, because that whole kind of digital technology piece and the digital progress that's been made across the sector, we're starting to kind of piece together some of these additional things around how we can start to, like, I really like the aspect of thinking about like local workforces, and the fact that, you know, when organizations start going through some digital transitions, they start to automate processes, they start to evaluate different aspects of how they're using data, but then it kind of goes, it can go further once they start to put these things in places, to the fact about, you know, for example, SFHA are now considering more about sustainability and how that can actually affect local communities. I think that's a great aspect that it's maybe not necessarily that apparent to begin with, but I think, you know, digital doesn't just mean it's kind of the big ticket stuff. It's also something that can impact local people and businesses, especially within, you know, what's happened within the pandemic. I imagine there are opportunities for businesses to expand, but also localize more. So to take it, I'm gonna like slightly curveball you here, but one of the other parts that I think is really important about the data and how we use it is the cybersecurity aspect and that kind of risk management part. And I think it goes hand in hand with, you know, the more data we have, the higher kind of risk it could be to a business. And, you know, I was just wondering how that's factored into some of the conversations you've had with other housing associations in terms of, you know, have they decided that through their digital strategies, they've been thinking about how can we condense, you know, all the systems that we're using, streamline it in order to have less risk to the business, I suppose, as well?
100%. Yeah, it's a great question, and it's really prevalent at the moment, because what we're seeing is, and again, this may resonate with your guys, your members, is that what we're seeing is people are bringing in new areas of the business, which is all around digital transformation. And part of that is going away from a proliferation of systems and narrowing it down to a few, which helps when you're condensing that data and pulling the analytics on the back end, but B, also leads into the likes of cybersecurity, because the less systems you have, the less potential impact you've got for risk. So that analysis is being built in. And what we've seen, I won't name names, but what we've seen with one particular client that we're currently engaged with is they've gone through something called a project synergy. And this is an internal project team that they've put together as part of their digital transformation to reduce their systems across their portfolio. And again, these are a part of a merger and an acquisition of numbers of different housing associations. So their housing stock's quite high. But what they had previously is 74 different digital platforms operating across their platform, which is crazy. And they understood that there's so much risk from human error, from the wrong information inputted into the wrong system, to systems not talking to each other, to pulling the wrong data, to again the cybersecurity and the risk that's allocated on the back end. So this project synergy that they've developed is about pulling these 70 plus systems down and just having 4 key systems. The difficulty is having that system that allows you to have a holistic view of all areas of compliance, of maintenance, of repairs, of housing management, of tenant stock, all that kind of stuff, and how they choose the right ones. And that's where we've been working with those to say, okay, you've got a housing management system. We're not a housing management system. So let's build stuff around that to make sure that's right for you. And then everything else, the other 3 systems that you want, need to be a bolt-on that allows you to cover all aspects that you want to cover, while allowing you to extract that data, but again, reducing the risk on individuals within the organization, but also data remits and that kind of stuff as well. So we're working very, very closely with a number of clients that are looking to reduce that risk. And by reducing the number of systems they're using and the number of input that's running through it, using cloud-based systems like ours, it allows them to reduce that risk significantly.
That's a great answer for me, putting you in the spot. But, I mean, I think, yeah, just to touch on that as well, around the cloud-based side of solutions, it's definitely something moving forward that we've seen an increase in within our sector. And I think it kind of boils down to that flexibility, but also kind of evergreen aspect, that when you are looking at more cloud-based products, you're going to get continual improvement on things like accessibility, better user experience, and that goes across the board when you're thinking about different staff members that are using this, considering their digital skill levels and their confidence. These systems need to be easy to use in order for an organisation to get the most out of it. So I just wanted to touch on the cost saving aspect as well, and I was just wondering if there was any kind of examples or kind of clients that you've worked with, you've seen that kind of not necessarily instantaneous, but you've seen a kind of an apparent shift in how they've used some of those kind of more digital processes to cut down on the manual paper tasks that are going on, and how that's freed up staff's time?
Of course, so there's a number of ways, and we can go into ROIs and all that kind of stuff on the back end, but to keep it very high level, there's a number of ways in which instant and long-term cost savings can be evaluated by using digital transformation. So one is, if we go back to the point in case earlier where they've got 70 odd different systems and now they've got 4, automatically you can understand they're not paying for 70 plus systems. So there's a huge cost saving entity that's there by pulling everything together. Secondly, it's about having that intuitive work. So we work very, very hard on our user experience, and that's all about allowing residents to raise a report or a report request so that it comes through. It includes troubleshooting, so it cuts down on what we call that tenant noise, so it can reduce admin work on your side from reducing spreadsheets. The system itself is very intuitive. If you can use the likes of Facebook, WhatsApp, Twitter, whatever, you'll be able to use our system. And that's how we've made it very, very simple. So it's cut down on time for admin perspective, so they can either allocate resource to other areas of the business, or they can split that cost accordingly. So again, instant impacts, but then all the way from how they use that digital solution, that technology and that data. So one, they're not spending, we've had people that come back to us saying, for argument's sake, I'm a compliance manager and I need to pull together a monthly board report for my stakeholders around where we are on our compliance rating for gas, electric, Legionella, asbestos, whatever it may be. And it can take me 4, 5, 6 days to assess the different systems, pull the data together and get it all together. What we've done is using the predictive analytics and using the advanced analytics on our system, within a click of a button, you have a dashboard that's there. So you don't have to spend days on end pulling that together. And again, it's a cost saving and an efficiency gain. We've also got the angry tolerances that's built in, so it's front end loaded. So if you've got an operative on site, again, going back to compliance for argument's sake, you've got that holistic overview of real time data. You're not having to go back to do a second time visit. So if I'm doing an LGSR for argument's sake, historically you would go out, the operative would do it, it'd then be paper-based or digital, it gets then dropped in the office, it's then audited and reviewed, there's a number of key failure points, you then have to send that operative back and then they're recycling, it's another visit, it's another cost. Our technology enables a proactive approach, so they can highlight errors while they're on the system. So a typical example of this is if they're putting a particular reading in that's prevalent to an LGSR, and they put, I don't know, for operational pressure 222 instead of 22, that normally would have just been written down or gone through digitally. It's a failure point. Our angry states automatically identify that that reading isn't right. So now you've got one of two options. One, it actually is right, it's the reading that's telling me, so I need to condemn that appliance or that asset. Or two, I've got fat finger syndrome, I've typed in the wrong number, I'll amend it, and automatically I've now reset it. So the number of key failure points are negated because the front end is done correctly. And it's a focus on the safety check. And this is prevalent for gas, electric, and fire. And it's not a focus on the certificate. The certificate's almost a byproduct, but you're guaranteed that the certificate's right. So it's cutting down on the second and third time visits. It's cutting down on audit perspectives. It's also identifying kind of where you are on failure points. It's also looking at track warranties. It's also incorporating the MOT style servicing. And again, with predictive and planned maintenance, again, it's allowing you to work with those local trades. So again, going back to your social values, but it's driving down the cost as well. So what we're seeing, as an example, we've done just over 1 million jobs in total through our platform. And when we compare our marketplace of contractors doing a particular job against appointed contractors, there is a 43% cost saving on the jobs that are being done. So it's a huge cost saving. And when you put all that together, people are over 10, 20, 30,000 properties, people are experiencing some serious cost saving analysis on the back end.
No, that's really interesting, actually, and I can totally relate to the fat finger syndrome. The amount of calls I've accidentally made in WhatsApp's unbelievable. No, so just to round that off, I think again I'm kind of been going through this and kind of teasing out one or two different aspects that, you know, it's not necessarily apparent straight away, but I think another one for us as a sector, we've got around 152 housing associations in Scotland,
Mm-hmm.
but they vary in size. So we have some that are community based, and we have, you know, larger RSLs out there, and I think that that also means that we have, you know, each housing association is different sets of staff and organisational structures. Some of them don't necessarily have internal IT teams.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, you know, on reflection and a lot of the work I've been doing around digital strategies with housing associations, what we've seen is the ability for technology to actually bridge that gap, that attainment gap between what some organisations don't have internally in terms of capacity and skill sets, and how, you know, better use of technology and applications can actually help you in that department as well. Was that something you've also seen with some of the kind of smaller organisations that you've worked with?
100%. What we have seen in particular with the small ones, because as I say, we've got an eclectic mix of clients that are on board. We've got the likes of the Environment Agency, who have 7 properties, all the way up to PFP with 100,000, for example. Sorry, L&Q with 100,000, for example. What we have seen is exactly that. Some people have digital strategies and they have a whole team that's working on ICT. And then some of the smaller agents are part of the G320 we work with as well. They don't have anything in place. And although they'll have, they may have purchased a housing management system 5-10 years ago, they still haven't advanced on that, and they're still actually using spreadsheets and manual intervention to make it work. And where we've seen a real difference in particular, again, to make it resonate with you guys, is with Lawburn and with Moray. So 2 that are north of the border, where they don't have, they're of a smaller scale, and they don't have that ICT team or that digital transformation. What we've enabled them to do is go in, install a digital solution for them that's very, very simple to use, very intuitive, easily accessible, and allowing the reports and the analytics on the back end. But not only can it be used as a standalone, so because some people are saying, I don't even use my housing management, I use spreadsheets. What we're seeing is they're coming back to us and saying, hey, not only are we getting efficiency gains, not only we get cost savings, but Doris in the back office is no longer using her Excel spreadsheet because it's such a simple technology to use, and it's allowing us to free up her time to go through it. And we're getting that one single version of the truth. We're no longer getting potential human errors that can creep in, and we understand exactly where we are when we're reporting to the regulator or to the board about our compliancy levels or about our actual stock level as well. So it's very relative, regardless of property stock or regardless of internal processes and internal application teams.
That's great to hear, and I think maybe after this, what we'll try and do is look at kind of teasing out 1 or 2 case studies of kind of some of the organisations you've worked with, so we can share them with membership.
Yeah.
Just to wrap up from my point, thanks to everyone for coming along and attending today. And thanks to Lee for that insightful presentation. On my part as well, you know, we've recently launched a IT and digital forum where we're continually talking about new technology and new products, and things that will really try and make a difference to your organisation moving forward. So please do get in touch with myself if you'd like to know more about that. If you'd like to know anything else about the presentation, we'll be sending out a post-event email with access to the recording and the slide deck, as well as contact details for myself and Lee. And yeah, thanks a lot to everybody again. We've got a little evaluation just ongoing poll, so if you could take just a few seconds to answer that, that'd be great. And yeah, so I think just from my point of view as well, around that benchmarking, whilst I'm here and trying to fill a small gap, we at SFHA are going to be launching a total cost of ownership for IT and digital benchmarking tool this month. It's going to be an opportunity for organisations to give us a little bit of detail and then get a breakdown of the benchmarking costs of what that aligns to. So, for example, what that would cost IT and digital wise for 1 unit of stock per tenant, per device in your work. So yeah, there's some really interesting projects coming up, and if that kind of interests you, piques your kind of, I suppose, your interest in what other organisations are doing, please get in touch and I can let you know more about that. And the thing is, this is information that will help inform a lot of the work that we're doing at ISFHA moving forward for the membership. So again, thanks a lot. I think we'll just wrap it up there. As I said, the recording will be available in the next few days and we'll get that sent out to you. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you.
Cheers. Goodbye.
Thanks, guys. Take care. Bye now.